Did you ever wonder who truly ruled the medieval world, not just from a throne, but from the pages of gripping epics and sagas? From the 6th century to the 15th century, these women carved their names into history and legend, shaping destinies and inspiring tales that still thrill us today. Were they saints or sinners, heroes or villains? What secrets did they hold that made bards sing of them for centuries? Number 10. Guinevere, Queen of Camelot. The name Guinevere echoes through the grand halls of myth, a central figure in the sprawling, tragic tapestry of King Arthur's court. She stands as the Queen of Camelot, the golden heart of a kingdom built on chivalry and honor, yet also the unintended catalyst for its devastating fall. Her story, woven into countless medieval romances and chronicles, especially within the vast Arthurian cycle, presents a portrait of striking beauty, nobility, and profound human vulnerability. The earliest mentions of Guinevere appear in the Welsh triads and Geoffrey of Monmouth's Historia Regum Britannia from the 12th century, where she is already the queen married to Arthur. Geoffrey presents her as a woman of exquisite beauty, born into a noble Roman family, a fitting consort for the legendary king. In this early account, her abduction by Mordred is what directly incites Arthur's final cataclysmic battle. However, it is in the French romances, particularly those by Chrétien de Troyes in the late 12th century, that Guinevere's character truly takes on the dimensions that would define her for centuries. Chrétien's Lancelot, the Knight of the Cart, throws a spotlight on the forbidden passion that consumes Guinevere, and Sir Lancelot, Arthur's most trusted knight and dearest friend. The poem opens with Guinevere being abducted by Meleagant, a treacherous prince. Lancelot, driven by an unshakable, unspoken devotion to the queen, embarks on a perilous quest to rescue her. His willingness to endure humiliation, such as riding in a cart, meant for criminals, showcases the immense depth of his feeling for her. When Lancelot finally reaches her, their reunion is marked by a deep reverence, a complex mix of duty and undeniable attraction. Their first kiss, described with an almost sacred intensity, is a pivotal moment, sealing their tragic fate and setting the stage for their romantic ideal of courtly love, which was all the rage in medieval high society. The affair between Guinevere and Lancelot, initially a secret whispered among the chosen few, becomes an open secret within the Arthurian narratives that follow. Authors like Thomas of Britain, in his Tristan poem, and the anonymous authors of the Vulgate cycle, further elaborate on the secret meetings, the exquisite joy, and the gnawing fear that define their relationship. Guinevere is portrayed as a woman of immense charm and intelligence, capable of holding her own among the greatest knights and minds of the court. Yet she is also trapped by circumstance, by her marriage to Arthur, and by the strictures of her queenly duty. Her love for Lancelot is not frivolous. It is depicted as a profound connection, a bond that transcends mere desire and hints at a destined, if destructive, alignment of souls. Sir Thomas Malory's La Morte d'Arthur, compiled in the 15th century and perhaps the most comprehensive and influential Arthurian work, offers the fullest and most heartmate portrayal of Guinevere's role in the kingdom's downfall. Malory details the long clandestine nature of the affair, describing the numerous close calls and the increasing tension within Camelot. Guinevere, in Malory's narrative, is not a villain, but a woman caught in an impossible situation. Her loyalty to Lancelot often clashes with her duty to Arthur and the realm. She is fiercely protective of Lancelot, defending him against accusations, yet also racked by guilt and the knowledge that her actions of her husband's dream. The revelation of their affair, orchestrated by the envious Mordred and Agravain, is depicted as an irreversible cataclysm. Guinevere is sentenced to death by burning a judgment of her treachery to the crown. Lancelot, ever her champion, dramatically rescues her, leading to open war between Arthur and his most cherished knight. The consequences of Guinevere's love are immense. The Round Table, once a symbol of unity and justice, splinters into factions. The quest for the Holy Grail, which might have saved the kingdom, is tainted by the knight's spiritual failings and Lancelot's inability to fully overcome his earthly love. Ultimately, the conflict instigated by the affair weakens Arthur's kingdom, allowing Mordred to usurp the throne and leading to the final fatal battle of Camelot. After Arthur's death, Guinevere makes a profound decision. She renounces the world and dedicates her life to God, entering a nunnery in Amesbury. When Lancelot seeks her out, one last time, filled with remorse and desperate for forgiveness, she refuses to return to their former life, emphasizing that their earthly love caused too much suffering. She seeks penance and spiritual purification, hoping to atone for the destruction she indirectly caused. Her final years are spent in devout service, culminating in her peaceful death and burial near Arthur, a poignant closure to a love story that ripped a kingdom apart. Guinevere's story is a timeless exploration of love, loyalty, betrayal, and redemption. A potent narrative that has fascinated audiences for centuries and cemented her place as one of the most compelling figures in epic. Number 9. Isolde, the golden-haired princess. The legend of Tristan and Isolde is perhaps the most famous and heartbreaking tale of illicit love in medieval literature, and at its heart lies Isolde, the golden-haired princess of Ireland. Her story is not merely one of romance, it is a profound exploration of fate, passion, duty, and betrayal woven into numerous versions of the medieval romance, from the early French poems by Beroul and Thomas of Britain in the 12th century to the more elaborate German rendition. Isolde, a name that evokes both beauty and tragedy, is consistently portrayed as a woman of striking allure and sharp intellect, whose life is irrevocably altered by a magical potion. The story begins with Tristan, a brave and loyal knight from Cornwall, serving his uncle King Mark. Tristan is sent to Ireland to fetch Isolde, the beautiful princess, to be Mark's bride. This quest is fraught with peril, as Tristan had previously killed Isolde's uncle Morholt in a duel, leaving a piece of his sword in Morholt's skull. Isolde, renowned for her healing skills, discovers the missing shard while tending to a wounded Tristan. Recognizing him as her family's slayer, initially she intends to kill him, but his charm and the gravity of their shared destiny prevent her. Despite this initial animosity, or perhaps because of it, a strange tension already exists between them. The pivotal moment in their epic occurs on the ship journey back to Cornwall. Isolde's mother, a sorceress, had prepared a powerful love potion intended for Mark and Isolde, ensuring their marital bliss. However, through a fateful mistake or a divine intervention, Isolde and Tristan accidentally drink the potion together. This is not a potion of fleeting desire, but one of overwhelming, undeniable, and eternal love. Once the potion is consumed, their individual wills are subsumed by a cosmic force, binding them together in an unbreakable bond that defies all societal norms, loyalties, and consequences. This magical compulsion is what gives their love its epic, almost mythological quality. They are not simply lovers, but victims and instruments of a destiny beyond their control. Upon their arrival in Cornwall, Isolde is wed to King Mark. Despite her marriage, the potion drives her and Tristan into a clandestine affair, forcing them to live a life of secrecy, deception, and constant danger. Their love is portrayed as a consuming fire, so powerful that it makes their existence a constant struggle between their profound affection and the demands of their public lives. Isolde, now Queen of Cornwall, is depicted as resourceful and cunning in their attempts to hide their secret. She often employs ingenious stratagems to mislead King Mark and his suspicious courtiers, such as the famous scene where she and Tristan swear an ambiguous oath over a relic, making it technically true but morally deceptive. These moments highlight Isolde's intelligence and her commitment to her forbidden love, even as they show the desperate measures she must take to preserve it. The medieval narratives detail numerous post calls and desperate escapes. King Mark, though often depicted as kind and honorable, is tormented by suspicions and betrayal. His advisors, particularly the treacherous dwarf Frossen, constantly try to expose the lovers. Tristan and Isolde are forced to endure exile in the wilderness, separation, and periods of agonizing longing. Their suffering elevates their story beyond simple adultery, transforming it into a grand, tragic narrative of love against an insurmountable world. The enduring nature of their bond, even in the face of immense hardship, is a testament to the power of the love potion and the depth of their connection. The tale ultimately leads to a devastating conclusion. In most versions, Tristan, wounded in a later battle, sends for Isolde, believing only her healing touch can save him. He instructs his messenger to hoist a white sail if Isolde is on board, and a black sail if she is not. His jealous wife, Isolde of the White Hands, a different Isolde, lies to him, telling him the sail is black. Believing his beloved has abandoned him, Tristan dies of despair. When the true Isolde arrives and finds him dead, her grief is so profound that she dies by his side, embracing him one last time. In some versions, a hawthorn tree grows from Tristan's grave and intertwines with a rose bush from Isolde's, a timeless symbol of their unbreakable love, even in death. Isolde's character, with her beauty, her powerful love, and her tragic fate, captivated medieval audiences and continues to define the very essence of doomed romance. Her story, filled with magic, passion, and sorrow, has ensured her immortality in the pantheon of epic queens. Number 8. Kriemhild, the Avenging Queen. In the epic landscape of the German heroic tradition, few figures command as much attention and terror as Kriemhild, the central female character of the Nibelungenlied. This monumental medieval German epic poem, composed around 1200 CE, transforms Kriemhild from a gentle, beautiful Primhild. Her story is a chilling narrative of love loss and the devastating consequences of unchecked vengeance. The beginning of the Nibelungenlied, Kriemhild is portrayed as the epitome of courtly grace and beauty, a beloved sister of King Gunther of Burgundy and his brothers Gernot and Giselher. She lives a sheltered life in Worms, the Burgundian capital, dreaming of a noble husband. Her life changes forever with the arrival of Siegfried, the legendary hero who defeated dragons, conquered the Nibelungs, and possessed a vast hoard of gold and a cloak of invisibility. Siegfried, drawn by tales of Kriemhild's beauty, seeks her hand in marriage. Their courtship is a classic, epic romance. Siegfried aids Gunther in winning the powerful Queen Brunhild, and in return, Gunther grants Siegfried Kriemhild's hand. Their marriage is a joyous occasion, and they depart for Siegfried's kingdom of Xanten, where Kriemhild bears him a son. For a time, Kriemhild enjoys a period of unparalleled happiness, believing herself secure in her husband's love and fame. However, the seeds of tragedy are sown early. During a visit to Worms, a bitter quarrel erupts between Kriemhild and Brunhild, Gunther's queen. Brunhild, still resentful of Siegfried's apparent superior strength and unaware of the trickery involved in her own subjugation, questions Kriemhild's status. In a moment of pique, Kriemhild reveals the truth about Siegfried's role in Gunther's wooing of Brunhild, exposing Siegfried's deception and Brunhild's humiliation. This public revelation is the catalyst for Siegfried's doom. Hagen von Tronje, Gunther's fiercely loyal and cunning retainer, already suspicious and envious of Siegfried's power, seizes this opportunity. He convinces Gunther and his brothers that Siegfried's death is necessary to restore their honor. And the Burgundian reputation, the murder of Siegfried, is depicted with brutal clarity. Hagen tricks Kriemhild into revealing Siegfried's single vulnerable spot, a small mark on his back, left by a dragon's blood that had rendered him invulnerable everywhere else. During a hunting trip, Hagen spears Siegfried. To this mark, Kriemhild's grief is monumental and caught. She holds her dying husband, witnessing his last breath, and her heart is hardened by an unbearable sorrow and an unquenchable thirst for retribution. She correctly suspects Hagen and her brothers of the treachery, but she lacks the power to act immediately. For years, she lives in silent mourning, holding on to her grief and her desire for revenge. Hagen, in a further act of cruelty, steals the Nibelung hoard, Siegfried's immense treasure, and sinks it into the Rhine, denying Kriemhild her rightful inheritance and further fueling her bitterness. Turning point in Kriemhild's life comes when she receives a marriage proposal from Etzel, the powerful king of the Huns, known in history as Attila. Despite the warnings and the fact that Etzel is a pagan, Kriemhild, driven by her singular purpose, accepts. She understands that marrying Etzel will grant her the immense power and resources she needs to exact her vengeance. She journeys to the land of the Huns, becomes Queen Etzel, and for 13 long years, she meticulously plans her retribution. She uses her influence over Etzel to invite her Burgundian brothers Gunther, Hagen, and their entire court to a feast in Hungary. The Huns' court becomes the stage for Kriemhild's terrifying scheme. She feigns hospitality, but her true intentions are revealed through her increasingly aggressive demands for justice and her instigation of violence. She attempts to turn Etzel's warriors against her brothers, demanding Siegfried's treasure and the surrender of Hagen. When these demands are refused, the feast devolves into an apocalyptic battle. Kriemhild is no longer the gentle princess. She is a grim, calculating force of destruction. She orders her Hunnish warriors to burn the hall, trapping her brothers and their knights. She offers them no mercy, watching as her family and their retainers are systematically slaughtered. The epic describes scene after scene of horrific violence, a direct consequence of Kriemhild's single-minded pursuit of retribution. In the climax of the narrative, Kriemhild confronts Hagen, who remains defiant even as all his comrades are dead. She takes Siegfried's sword, Balmung, which Hagen had stolen, and brutally decapitates Hagen with her own hands. King Etzel and other surviving onlookers are horrified by her extreme act. Hildebrand, a knight of Dietrich of Bern, in a final act of outrage or mercy, slays Kriemhild, deeming her to have gone too far in her cruelty. Kriemhild's journey from grieving widow to ultimate avenger is one of the most compelling and terrifying character arcs in medieval literature. Her story, steeped in themes of honor, loyalty, and the destructive nature of revenge, remains a powerful and unforgettable epic. Number 7. Brunhild the Shield Maiden Queen. The character of Brunhild, a fierce and powerful queen, is one of the most enigmatic and compelling figures in Germanic heroic legend, appearing prominently in both the Norse Volsunga saga and the German Nibelungenlied. While the two traditions present different aspects of her story, the core of her character remains consistent. She is a woman of immense strength, pride, and magical prowess, entangled in a tragic destiny of love, betrayal, and vengeance. For this discussion, we will focus primarily on her portrayal in the Volsunga saga, which details her origins as a Valkyrie and her deep connection to the hero, Sigurd. In the Volsunga saga, Brunhild is introduced not merely as a mortal queen, but as a Valkyrie, one of Odin's warrior maidens who guides fallen heroes to Valhalla. Her divine origins set her apart, granting her supernatural strength, wisdom, and an unwavering spirit. The saga recounts that Odin, angered by her disobedience in battle, punished her by pricking her with a sleek thorn, imprisoning her in a ring of fire on a remote mountaintop. She is fated to remain there until a hero brave enough to ride through the flames comes to awaken her and claim her as his bride. This mystical imprisonment immediately establishes her as a woman of extraordinary destiny, awaiting a lover of equally legendary stature. The hero who answers this call is Sigurd the Dragon Slayer, the greatest of the Volsung heroes. He rides through the fiery ring, awakens Brunhild, and they fall deeply in love. Brunhild, in turn, shares her immense wisdom with Sigurd, teaching him runes and prophecy, and they swear oaths of everlasting love and fidelity. They exchange rings, a powerful symbol of their unbreakable bond. This initial encounter is portrayed as a fated cosmic union, a love story between two beings destined for greatness. Brunhild, in this moment, is not just a lover, but a mentor, embodying both fierce warrior spirit and profound knowledge. However, fate, or perhaps the manipulation of others, intervenes. Sigurd later arrives at the court of the Burgundian king Gunnar, known as Gunther in the Nibelungen. Gunnar, hearing tales of the magnificent Brunhild, desires her for his wife, but lacks the courage and skill to ride through the fiery ring himself. Gunnar's retainer, Grimhild, Kriemhild's mother in the Nibelungen Lied, a sorceress, gives Sigurd a potent potion that makes him forget Brunhild and fall in love with Gunnar's sister, Gudrun. Under the spell of this potion, Sigurd agrees to help Gunnar win Brunhild. In a cruel twist of destiny, Sigurd, disguised as Gunnar by way of a magical transformation, rides through the flames a second time and claims Brunhild for Gunnar. Brunhild, bound by her earlier oath to marry only the man who could ride through the fire, believes she has been truly won by Gunnar. She marries Gunnar, and her profound, unacknowledged love for Sigurd festers into a bitter resentment and jealousy. The saga details her growing unhappiness and suspicion. One day, during a bath, Gudrun taunts Brunhild by revealing that it was Sigurd, not Gunnar, who had ridden through the flames and taken her ring, the ring Sigurd had given to Gudrun. This revelation shatters Brunhild, exposing the depth of the deception and the agony of her lost love. Brunhild's reaction is swift and terrifying. Her noble pride, combined with her deep, undying love for Sigurd, transforms into a relentless desire for vengeance. She cannot tolerate the humiliation and the betrayal. She withdraws, consumed by rage and sorrow, threatening to leave Gunnar and plunge the kingdom into chaos, unless Sigurd is killed. Her powerful will and fearsome nature are on full display. She manipulates Gunnar and his brothers, eventually driving them to conspire against Sigurd. Hagen, Gunnar's half-brother, takes on the grim task, slaying Sigurd in his sleep or in some versions during a hunt. Sigurd's death is the culmination of Brunhild's tragic destiny. Upon seeing his body, her fury momentarily subsides, replaced by a profound, heartbreaking grief. The sagas describe her laughter, a strange, terrible sound, when she hears the dying cries of Sigurd's murderer, followed by an equally sudden collapse into tears. She recounts her love for Sigurd and the torment of her betrayal. In a final, desperate act of devotion and despair, Brunhild decides to join Sigurd in death. She orders a magnificent pyre to be built on which she will be burned alongside her beloved. She also ensures that Sigurd's 3-year-old son, who had been unknowingly involved in the deceit, is killed and laid upon the pyre with her. In a powerful dramatic scene, she mounts the pyre, proclaiming her undying love for Sigurd and envisioning their reunion in the afterlife. Brunhild's fiery spirit, her tragic love, and her dramatic, vengeful end cement her as one of the most unforgettable and formidable queens in epic literature. A woman whose power and pride were as great as her sorrow. Number 6. Gudrun, the Enduring Sorrow. Gudrun, sister of the Burgundian kings, Gunnar and Hogni, is a central figure in the tragic and brutal world of the Norse Volsung saga and the Poetic Edda. Her life is a relentless cycle of love, loss, and vengeance, making her a symbol of enduring sorrow and resilience in the face of overwhelming adversity. Unlike some other epic queens who might instigate the tragedies, Gudrun is largely a victim of the fates and the schemes of others, though her reactions to her suffering are as fierce as any warrior's. Her story is a tapestry woven with threads of betrayal, forced marriages, and the relentless pursuit of retribution. Gudrun's first major entry into the epic narrative is as the beloved wife of Sigurd the Dragon Slayer, the greatest hero of the Volsung line. Their marriage is a happy one, and she bears him a son, Sigmund. For a brief period, Gudrun experiences domestic bliss, a stark contrast to the violence that defines much of the saga. She is deeply devoted to Sigurd, and her bond with him seems unbreakable. Her life is filled with joy, unaware of the impending doom that will shatter her world. The catalyst for her endless suffering is the jealousy and trickery of Brunhild, who believes she was betrayed by Sigurd and Gudrun's brother Gunnar. Gudrun, in an unfortunate moment of pride or perhaps just innocence, reveals to Brunhild that it was Sigurd, not Gunnar, who rode through the ring of fire and claimed Brunhild as a bride. This truth, meant perhaps as a boast of her husband's prowess, unleashes Brunhild's fury and instigates the plot to murder Sigurd. The sagas depict Gudrun's utter devastation when she discovers her husband's body. Her grief is so profound that she cannot even cry. The sorrow is too immense to be expressed in tears. Instead, she is silent, her body racked with pain until the ravens and wolves cry outside her window, triggering her own wail of despair, a sound so terrible it echoes through the halls. She holds Sigurd's body, clinging to his last moments, and her world collapses around her. After Sigurd's murder, Gudrun's life becomes a series of forced marriages and further tragedies. In a desperate attempt to move on, or perhaps to secure alliances, her brothers force her to marry Atli, the powerful king of the Huns, Attila the Hun. This marriage is not one of love, but of political necessity and a grim foreshadowing of more bloodshed. Atli is driven by greed, desiring the Nibelung treasure, which was once Sigurd's, and now belongs to Gudrun's brothers, Gunnar and Hogni. Gudrun foresees the disaster, but is powerless to prevent it. She attempts to warn her brothers of Atli's treacherous invitation, sending them a ring wrapped in wolf's hair, a symbolic warning of danger. Despite her warnings, Gunnar and Hogni ride to Atli's court, where they are ambushed and captured. Atli demands the location of the treasure. When they refuse, Atli brutally murders Hogni, cutting out his heart, and then casts Gunnar into a snake pit. Gudrun, witnessing the horrific torture and death of her brothers, reaches her breaking point. The loss of her beloved Sigurd, followed by the systematic destruction of her remaining family, transforms her grief into a chilling, calculated desire for vengeance. She does not weep or mourn openly this time. Instead, she plans. Gudrun's revenge against Atli is one of the saga's most horrifying episodes. She feigns reconciliation with Atli, inviting him and his sons to a grand feast. During the feast, she slays her own 2 young sons by Atli, Erp, and Eitil. She then serves their hearts roasted and their blood, mixed with wine, to Atli, who unknowingly consumes his own children. After revealing her monstrous act, Gudrun kills Atli himself in his bedchamber, setting fire to his hall and burning him and his entire court to death. Her vengeance is total and utterly ruthless, a testament to the depths of her suffering and the lengths to which she would go to avenge her family. Even after this terrible act, Gudrun's torment continues. Unable to find peace, she attempts to drown herself in the sea, but is miraculously saved and carried across the waves to the land of King Jonakr. She is forced into yet another marriage and bears him 3 sons, the Jonakrans. However, her daughter from Sigurd, Svanhild, is brutally murdered by King Jormunrek, whose son she rejected. This final tragedy spurs Gudrun into orchestrating one last act of vengeance. She encourages her remaining sons to avenge their half-sister, leading to another bloody confrontation. Gudrun's life is a cycle of loss, a series of heroic deeds and terrible crimes committed against her or for her. Her story is a powerful testament to the enduring human spirit, albeit one shaped by profound sorrow and the brutal realities of the heroic age. Gudrun, the woman who endured endless pain, remains an indelible figure in the epic sagas, a queen whose tears flowed into rivers of blood. Number 5. Dido, Queen of Carthage. The tragic figure of Dido, the legendary founder and queen of Carthage, is immortalized in Virgil's monumental Latin epic, the Aeneid, composed in the 1st century BCE. While not strictly a medieval queen by historical timeline, her story was profoundly influential throughout the European Middle Ages. The Aeneid was a foundational text for medieval education, philosophy, and literature, studied, copied, and reinterpreted constantly. Dido's narrative, a powerful tale of love, duty, and devastating sacrifice, resonated deeply with medieval audiences, shaping their understanding of tragic romance. Dido's epic journey begins in Tyre, Phoenicia, where she is Princess Elisa, beloved wife of Sychaeus. Her cruel brother Pygmalion, driven by greed, secretly murders Sychaeus for his vast wealth. Heartbroken and fearing for her own life and treasure, Elisa cleverly conceals her knowledge of the murder. She gathers her loyal followers, deceives Pygmalion, and flees Tyre with her husband's wealth. Their journey is long and arduous, eventually leading them to the shores of North Africa. There, Elisa purchases a tract of land by a clever ruse, buying only as much land as an ox hide could encompass, then cutting the hide into thin strips to encircle a large area. On this site, she founds the magnificent city of Carthage, becoming its revered queen, Dido, a name meaning wanderer or beloved. She establishes a thriving trading port, attracting settlers, and building impressive fortifications, demonstrating her exceptional leadership, foresight, and determination. Carthage quickly becomes a formidable power in the Mediterranean, a testament to Dido's strength and ingenuity. Her new kingdom, however, is a threat to the gods' plans for Aeneas, the Trojan hero destined to found Rome. Blown off course by a storm orchestrated by Juno, Aeneas and his surviving Trojan companions land on the shores of Carthage. Dido, renowned for her hospitality and compassion, welcomes the shipwrecked Trojans, offering them refuge, supplies, and aid. She is immediately struck by Aeneas, who embodies heroic grandeur and a noble bearing. Through divine intervention, particularly by Venus and Cupid, Dido is made to fall passionately in love with Aeneas. This love, an overwhelming force, is not entirely of her own choosing. It is a destiny thrust upon her by the gods to protect Aeneas. Their love affair blossoms amidst the burgeoning city. Dido neglects her duties as queen, becoming entirely consumed by her passion for Aeneas. Their relationship is consummated in a cave, during a hunting trip amidst a storm which Dido in her heart takes as a marriage. For a period they live as king and queen of Carthage, building a deep connection. However, their blissful existence is doomed. Aeneas has a divine mission, to travel to Italy and establish the lineage that will one day found Rome. Jupiter, the king of the gods, sends Mercury to remind Aeneas of his sacred duty and sternly commands him to depart Carthage. Aeneas, torn between his profound love for Dido and his unshakable destiny, prepares to leave in secret. Dido, sensing his preparations and driven by her divine-induced love, confronts him in a scene of searing, emotional intensity. She pleads, accuses, and mourns, reminding him of their vows and the profound shame his departure will bring upon her. She sacrificed her homeland and her reputation for him, defying local suitors and dedicating her life to her new kingdom, only to have her heart broken. Aeneas, though deeply affected by her anguish, remains resolute in his divine mission, explaining that he is not leaving by choice, but by divine decree. He cannot deny the destiny of Rome. Dido's despair upon Aeneas's departure. Her city-state, once her pride, now feels like a prison of her broken heart. Her love for Aeneas is so overwhelming that life without him is unbearable. In a final desperate act, she resolves to end her own life. She orders a pyre to be built, ostensibly for burning Aeneas's discarded possessions and purging herself of his memory. But in truth, it is her funeral pyre. She mounts it, clutches Aeneas's sword, and delivers a powerful prophetic curse upon Aeneas and his descendants, foretelling eternal enmity between Carthage and Rome. With a final heart-wrenching cry, she plunges the sword into her chest. Her death is a moment of profound tragedy, marked by her unfulfilled love and her ultimate sacrifice to honor. Dido's story, a testament to the power of love, the crushing weight of destiny, and the agonizing choices between passion and duty, has cemented her as an eternal symbol of the heartbroken queen. Her influence on medieval narratives of love and loss was immense, ensuring her continued presence in the epic literary tradition. Number 4. Helena of Troy, the face that launched 1,000 ships. Helena of Troy, whose unparalleled beauty was said to have launched 1,000 ships and brought about the downfall of a mighty city, is one of the most enduring figures in Western literature. While originating in ancient Greek epic, particularly Homer's Iliad, her story was tremendously popular and influential throughout the medieval period. Medieval scholars and poets, often redacting on Latin summaries and later adaptations like those by Dares, Phrydius, indicrated Cretensis rather than direct Homeric text Troy narratives, such as Benoit de Saint-Maur's Roman Destructions, Troio delle Colonnes, Historia Destructionis, Troio delle Colonnes, Historia Destruction. For medieval audiences, the Trojan War was not mere myth, but a foundational historical event, and Helena, as its prime cause, remained a figure of fascination, desire, and complex moral judgment. Helena's legend begins in Sparta as the daughter of King Tyndareus and Leda. Though some myths claim her father was Zeus himself in the form of the swan. Her beauty was so extraordinary that even as a young woman, she was abducted by Theseus, the hero of Athens, only to be rescued by her brothers Castor and Pollux. Upon reaching marriageable age, kings and princes from across the Greek world clamored for her hand. To avoid bloody conflict, her father made all suitors swear an oath that they would defend Helena's chosen husband against any wrong. She ultimately chose Menelaus, the wealthy and powerful king of Sparta, and they lived together, raising a daughter, Hermione. Helena, as Queen of Sparta, seemed settled in a life of royalty and domesticity. However, her destiny was intertwined with a divine prophecy and a judgment that would forever change the course of history. During the wedding feast of Peleus and Thetis, Eris, the goddess of discord, threw a golden apple, inscribed, "To the fairest." Paris, a prince of Troy, was chosen by Zeus to judge which goddess deserved it: Hera, Athena, or Aphrodite. Each goddess offered him a bribe. Hera promised him power, Athena promised wisdom and victory in battle, but Aphrodite offered him the most beautiful woman in the world. Helena, Paris, driven by desire, chose Aphrodite, setting in motion the chain of events that would devastate his city. Paris journeys to Sparta, ostensibly on a diplomatic mission, but with the true intention of claiming his prize. While Menelaus is away on a trip to Crete, Paris, with Aphrodite's aid, woos Helena. The medieval accounts vary slightly on Helena's complicity. Some depict her as a helpless victim of divine intervention, forced by Aphrodite to fall in love with Paris. Others present her as a willing participant swayed by Paris's charm and the allure of a new romance, a stark betrayal of her husband and their marriage vows. In any case, Helena abandons her husband, her home, and her child, sailing away with Paris and a portion of Menelaus's treasure, setting course for Troy. Upon their arrival in Troy, Helena is welcomed by King Priam and Queen Hecuba. Although some in the Trojan court, like Hector, express misgivings, she becomes Paris's consort, enjoying the status of a princess within the mighty walls of Troy. For the next 10 years, while the Achaeans lay siege to Troy demanding Helena's return, she lives within the besieged city. Her presence, however, is a constant source of tension and suffering. The war, with its endless bloodshed and destruction, is directly attributed to her. The Trojans themselves often lament her presence, seeing her as the cause of their woes, a curse on their city. Throughout the war, Helena is portrayed as a woman of immense inner conflict. She often stands on the walls observing the battles, expressing regret for the devastation she has caused, and sometimes even longing for her former life and her Greek home. She engages in conversations with Priam, who kindly absolves her of blame, and with Hector, who treats her with respect despite the chaos she represents. Her relationship with Paris, while passionate, is also tinged with her melancholy and his occasional cowardice. She is a figure of profound sorrow caught between two warring worlds, burdened by the knowledge of the suffering she has unleashed. After Paris's death, Helena is married to his brother Deiphobus, a desperate attempt to maintain some semblance of a legitimate union. However, when the Greeks finally penetrate Troy through the stratagem of the Trojan horse, Helena's fate is once again a subject of contention. In some versions, she is said to betray Deiphobus, revealing his hiding place to Menelaus, and helping her former husband reclaim her, possibly out of a desire for survival, or a desperate attempt to appease the Greeks. In others, she is simply discovered. Menelaus, initially enraged and contemplating killing her, is once again captivated by her beauty, and ultimately takes her back as his wife. They return to Sparta, where after a period of reconciliation and Menelaus' long and arduous journey, they are said to live out their days in peace. Helena of Troy, a figure of unparalleled beauty and profound tragedy, forever remains etched in epic memory as the woman who, however unwittingly, ignited the greatest war of the ancient world. Number 3. Roxana, Queen of Alexander's Empire. Roxana, a Bactrian princess, holds a unique and significant place in the epic tradition through her role as the wife of Alexander the Great. While Alexander's life and conquests were the subject of countless historical accounts, they were also transformed into a sprawling, fantastical genre of medieval literature known as the Alexander Romance. This collection of stories, which circulated widely across Europe, the Middle East, and beyond, from ancient times through the Middle Age, historical facts with legendary elements, creating an epic narrative of Alexander's life. Within this tradition, Roxana emerges as a figure of exotic beauty and a central symbol of Alexander's grand imperial ambitions and his rare moments of human connection. The Alexander Romance typically describes Roxana as the daughter of Oxyartes, a powerful Bactrian nobleman and warlord. Alexander encounters her during his arduous campaigns in Sogdiana and Bactria regions in Central Asia that proved challenging for his Macedonian army to conquer. Unlike many of Alexander's other conquests, his encounter with Roxana is not one of battle and subjugation, but of love and diplomacy. The romances emphasize her extraordinary beauty, describing her as one of the most stunning women Alexander had ever seen, captivating him immediately. This portrayal of her beauty, often heightened in the fantastical narratives, suggests that her allure was as potent as Alexander's military might. Alexander, known for his ambition and ruthless efficiency on the battlefield, was also capable of strategic and symbolic gestures. Marrying Roxana was one such act. It was not merely a marriage of personal affection, though the romances often implied deep feelings between them. It was a powerful political statement, a symbol of Alexander's policy of integration and his vision of a unified empire that transcended Greek and Persian distinctions. By marrying a local princess, Alexander aimed to legitimize his rule over the conquered eastern territories and foster a sense of shared identity between his Macedonian and Persian subjects. This act of marrying an Eastern woman, rather than a Macedonian or Greek noblewoman, was controversial among his generals and many of his troops, but it highlighted Alexander's unique approach to empire building. The Alexander romance emphasizes the lavishness of their wedding ceremony, often depicting it with Oriental splendor and blending Macedonian and Persian customs. This event was portrayed as a grand affair, solidifying Roxana's position as Alexander's first and only legitimate wife. She is shown to be highly intelligent and capable, worthy of her royal status. Even as her origins are outside the traditional Greek world, she is depicted as a steadfast companion to Alexander, accompanying him on some of his campaigns, including the arduous journey into India. Her presence adds a human dimension to Alexander's otherwise larger-than-life, often cold portrayal as a conqueror. She is the woman who could temper his immense ambition, however briefly. However, Roxana's story is also tinged with tragedy and the brutal realities of power. When Alexander dies suddenly in Babylon, leaving no clear successor, Roxana is pregnant with his child. Her unborn son, Alexander IV, becomes the sole legitimate heir to the vast, sprawling empire. This places Roxana in an incredibly perilous position amidst the chaos and power struggles of Alexander's generals. The Diadochi. The Alexander romance often details the dangers she faces, emphasizing her vulnerability as a foreign queen and the mother of an infant emperor in a court filled with ambitious men. The narratives recount how Roxana, driven by a fierce maternal instinct to protect her son and his rightful inheritance, attempts to navigate the treacherous political landscape. She seeks alliances and protection, but her power is limited. She is caught in the crossfire of warring factions, each vying for control of the empire and the young heir. Her story becomes a tragic epic of survival, betrayal, and ultimate demise. She is eventually brought to Macedonia, where she and her young son are imprisoned and ultimately assassinated by Cassander, one of Alexander's generals, who seeks to consolidate his own power and eliminate any potential rivals to the throne. This brutal end gets the fragility of even the most powerful connections in a world driven by ambition and political maneuvering. Roxana's story in the Alexander romance serves as a poignant counterpoint to Alexander's military triumphs. She is the exotic beauty who captured the heart of the world's greatest conqueror, a queen whose existence symbolized Alexander's ambition to blend East and West. Her tragic fate after Alexander's death as the mother of the last legitimate heir highlights the immense personal cost of empire and the brutal realities of power succession. She remains a memorable figure, a testament to the fact that even in the grandest epics of war and conquest, the human drama of love, loyalty, and loss often takes center stage. Number 2. Morgan Le Fay, the enigmatic sorceress queen. Morgan Le Fay, a figure shrouded in mist and mystery, is one of the most powerful and enduring female characters in the vast tapestry of Arthurian legend. While often portrayed as an antagonist to King Arthur and Queen Guinevere, her role is far more complex than simple villainy. She is a sorceress, a healer, a queen of Avalon, and King Arthur's half-sister, making her a figure of immense influence, magic, and often conflicting motivations. Her story is woven through various medieval romances, most notably in the works of Chrétien de Troyes and Sir Thomas Malory's Le Morte d'Arthur, where her enigmatic presence continuously challenges the traditional notions of good and evil. Morgan's origins are royal, as she is typically depicted as the daughter of Arthur's mother, Igraine, and her first husband, Duke Cornwall of Cornwall, making her Arthur's half-sister. This familial connection gives her a unique position within the court, a blend of insider knowledge and outsider resentment. Early mentions, such as in Geoffrey of Monmouth's Vita Merlini, portray her as a benevolent enchantress, a skilled healer, and a powerful mistress of Avalon, a mystical island associated with magic and the afterlife. In this version, she is one of the 9 magical sisters who welcome Arthur to Avalon after his final battle, offering him healing and solace. This early portrayal suggests a protective, almost maternal role toward her half-brother. However, as the Arthurian cycle evolved, particularly in the 13th century French prose romances, Morgan Le Fay's character undergoes a significant transformation. She becomes increasingly complex, often appearing as a powerful sorceress who uses her magic for both good and ill, frequently as an antagonist to Sir Lancelot and especially Guinevere. This shift might be attributed to the growing emphasis on Christian morality. In the romances where female magic was often viewed with suspicion, Morgan becomes a master of dark arts, shape-shifting illusions and charms capable of both creating beautiful illusions and concocting deadly poisons. Her rivalry with Queen Guinevere is a recurring theme. The romances often portray Morgan's jealousy of Guinevere's position as queen and her deep-seated resentment of Lancelot, whom she often tries to seduce or trap. This rivalry often leads Morgan to expose Guinevere's affair with Lancelot, or at least to aid those who seek to do so, contributing to the ultimate downfall of Camelot. She is depicted as intelligent, cunning, and fiercely independent, refusing to be constrained by the male-dominated courtly society. Her actions, while often malicious, are sometimes driven by a desire for power, a sense of injustice, or a twisted form of loyalty to what she believes is right for Arthur, even if it means opposing him. In Sir Thomas Malory's The Morte d'Arthur, Morgan Le Fay is a persistent and formidable adversary to Arthur. She is depicted as a learned sorceress who received her magical education in a convent. Her animosity towards Arthur stems from a variety of grievances, real or imagined. She attempts to steal his sword Excalibur to give it to her lover Sir Accolon, hoping he will use it to defeat Arthur in battle. She sends poisoned objects to Guinevere, tries to enchant Lancelot, and frequently employs her magic to cause mischief and create problems for Arthur's court. She also appears as the enigmatic queen of the magical realm of Gore. Ruling with an iron fist, her presence introduces an element of supernatural danger and intrigue, reminding the knights of forces beyond their earthly combat skills. Despite her antagonistic role, Morgan Le Fay is rarely depicted as entirely evil. Her motivations are often rooted in perceived slights or a desire for power that she believes is rightfully hers. She is often seen as a force of nature, beyond the moral strictures of Camelot. Furthermore, Malory, echoing earlier traditions, returns to her role as the mystical savior at Arthur's death. After the Battle of Camelot, when Arthur is mortally wounded, it is Morgan Le Fay, along with other mysterious ladies, who arrives in a black barge to take him to Avalon, promising to heal his wounds. This moment signifies her enduring, if conflicted, connection to Arthur and the magical essence of the Arthurian world. Morgan Le Fay's character encapsulates the duality of magic and the complex nature of power in medieval epics. She is a queen of the otherworldly, a woman who wields immense power, who challenges the established order, and whose enigmatic actions constantly propel the narrative forward. Her blend of malevolence, mystical power, and underlying connection to Arthur makes her one of the most intriguing and immortalized figures in the realm of epic queens. Number 1. Guinevere of Brabant, the persecuted queen. The story of Guinevere of Brabant is a medieval romance that, while perhaps less globally renowned than Arthurian legends or Norse sagas, was immensely popular in its time and throughout the centuries that followed. It is a powerful narrative of innocence, persecution, and divine justice, transforming the suffering of a virtuous queen into an epic tale of endurance and ultimate vindication. Her tale, often circulated in chapbooks, ballads, and theatrical plays across various European languages, particularly German and French, exemplifies the archetype of the unjustly accused woman, a theme that resonated deeply with medieval audiences. Guinevere is typically portrayed as the beautiful and virtuous wife of Siegfried, a powerful Count of Treves and Palatine. Their marriage is one of deep love and happiness, and their bond seems unshakable. The setting is often the idyllic landscape of the Rhineland, painting a picture of peace and prosperity before tragedy strikes. Their contentment is further solidified by the news that Guinevere is pregnant, promising an heir to Siegfried's noble lineage. This initial portrayal of domestic bliss sets the stage for the dramatic and cruel events that are about to unfold, highlighting the devastating impact of betrayal. Catalyst for Genevieve's suffering is her husband's steward, Golo, a figure consumed by lust and treachery. While Siegfried is away fighting in the wars of Charles Martel, leaving Genevieve in Golo's care, Golo attempts to seduce the queen. Genevieve, being a woman of unwavering virtue and fidelity to her husband, firmly rejects his advances, upholding her sacred marriage vows. This rejection, however, only fuels Golo's wicked heart, turning his frustrated desire into a burning hatred and a thirst for revenge. He resolves to destroy Genevieve's reputation and, if possible, her life. Golo, cunning and malicious, concocts a heinous false accusation against Genevieve. He claims she has been unfaithful to Siegfried, even suggesting that her pregnancy is the result of an illicit affair. When Siegfried returns victorious from battle, he is met not with celebration, but with Golo's poisonous lies. Siegfried, despite his initial love and trust for Genevieve, is tragically swayed by Golo's convincing fabrication, perhaps fueled by the societal pressures of honor and the severe consequences of infidelity. Without a fair trial, or perhaps even without confronting Genevieve directly, Siegfried, in a fit of rage and despair, orders his loyal servants Simon and Gofried to take Genevieve and her newborn son, Schmerzensreich, meaning rich in sorrow, or realm of pain, into the wilderness and execute them. The scene of Genevieve's abandonment in the desolate forest is one of the most poignant moments in her epic. The servants, moved by her innocence and her heartbreaking pleas, cannot bring themselves to commit the act. Instead, they spare her life, leaving her and her infant son alone in the untamed wilderness, telling Siegfried that they carried out his grim command. Genevieve, now a banished queen, stripped of her status, her home, and her husband's love, is left to fend for herself and her vulnerable child against the harsh elements, wild animals, and the gnawing fear of starvation. Her suffering is profound, a true test of human endurance and faith. However, a miraculous intervention occurs. Genevieve and her son are saved from starvation by a white hind, a deer that provides them with milk. They find refuge in a secluded cave where they live a solitary existence for 7 long years. Genevieve, through her piety and unwavering faith, endures the hardships relying on divine providence. She dedicates her life to raising her son in purity and prayer, an embodiment of maternal love and spiritual resilience. The hind, a symbol of innocence and purity, becomes her sole companion and provider, emphasizing the supernatural protection she receives. Meanwhile, Siegfried, haunted by his actions and perhaps by the growing unease about Golo's character, begins to regret his hasty judgment. The war hero struggles with his guilt, his kingdom suffering from his inner turmoil. One day, while hunting in the same wilderness, Siegfried and his retainers stumble upon the cave. They are astonished to find Genevieve still beautiful, despite her hardships, and her son now a healthy, pure-hearted boy. Living with the hind, the truth quickly unfolds. Golo's deception is exposed often through a dramatic confession or discovery of his treachery. Siegfried is overwhelmed with remorse and joy, realizing the terrible injustice he has inflicted upon his innocent wife. The story culminates in Genevieve's triumphant return to Siegfried's castle. Her innocence is publicly proclaimed and her name is cleared. Golo, the treacherous steward, faces a just and severe punishment, often death by being drawn and quartered, a grim example of divine retribution. Genevieve, despite her immense suffering, shows forgiveness, embodying the Christian virtues of mercy and grace. Siegfried, humbled and redeemed, reclaims her as his queen, and they live out their days in restored harmony and prosperity. Tale of Genevieve of Brabant, a saga of love, betrayal, divine intervention, and ultimate justice, captivated medieval audiences as an enduring testament to the power of innocence and faith in the face of overwhelming adversity.